This is the story of a terrifying pit stop experience I had one night. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. And no matter how normal it sounds at first, I swear to you, what I felt, what I saw, what I went through, was real. It happened 2 years ago. I was driving back home after visiting a friend in another state. It was around 1:30 in the morning. The highway was long and empty, and the night was darker than usual. My car was low on fuel, and I needed to use the restroom badly. So I was really relieved when I saw a sign for a gas station and rest stop coming up in a few miles. The place looked old but open. A single flickering light above the gas pump buzzed as I pulled in. The gas station store was there too, but the windows were dark, and I didn't see anyone inside. Still, the pump worked, so I filled up the tank. While the gas was pumping, I looked around. There was no other car, no movement, just silence. Not even the sound of bugs or wind, just that buzzing light. After fueling up, I walked toward the store to see if I could find the restroom. As I got closer to the door, it slowly creaked open by itself. I stopped. I thought maybe someone inside noticed me, but when I stepped in, I was hit by the smell of something rotting, like old meat or something worse. The store was dimly lit with one weak ceiling light near the counter. The shelves were mostly empty, dusty and broken. It looked like no one had really used this place in years. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I moved slowly toward the back of the store, thinking the restroom might be there. As I walked, I heard a soft thud behind me. I turned around quickly. Nothing. Just silence again. I kept walking and found a small wooden door with a faded sign that said restroom. I opened it carefully. It was just a single stall, cracked mirror above a rusted sink. But I didn't care. I just wanted to finish and get out. While I was inside, I heard the sound of footsteps. Not one pair, multiple. Soft, slow, and circling outside the restroom. My body froze. I wasn't sure if I was hearing things or if someone, or something, was really out there. Then the lights flickered. For a second, the restroom went completely dark. In that one moment of blackness, I heard breathing right outside the door. Opened the stall slowly, barely breathing, trying not to make a sound. I stepped out and stared at the restroom door. The breathing had stopped, but I could still feel something on the other side. I waited for maybe 30 seconds. Then I yanked. The door open and nothing, just the dim store. Empty. I moved fast, walked back toward the front door, ready to run back to my car. But when I reached the front of the store, the door was shut. I didn't close it. I know I didn't. I tried pulling it. Locked. I pulled harder. Nothing. I was trapped. That's when I saw it. Behind the counter. A shadow. Not a person. A shadow. But it moved. It shifted and leaned forward as if looking at me. The light above the counter flickered again, and for a split second I saw something. Its face, grayish skin, long sunken eyes, and a smile that looked like it had too many teeth. It didn't speak. It didn't move fast. It just started to rise from behind the counter, slow and quiet. Its body long and twisted, like it didn't have bones. Didn't scream. I couldn't. My throat closed up in fear. I backed away, reaching for anything I could use. My hand grabbed an old fire extinguisher near the wall. I didn't even think. I threw it at the window as hard as I could. The glass cracked but didn't break. The thing was now walking toward me, I could hear its feet dragging, and that smile never left its face. I grabbed a metal can from the floor and smashed the window again, this time harder. The glass shattered. Without waiting, I jumped out through the broken window. My arms got cut, but I didn't stop. I ran straight to my car, heart slamming in my chest. I started the car. It wouldn't start. I tried again. Still nothing. I looked up, and that thing was standing outside the store now, still smiling. It started walking toward me again. I don't know what made me do it, but I screamed at the top of my lungs, slammed the dashboard, and turned the key one more time. The engine roared to life. I floored it. As I sped away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the thing just standing there, watching me leave. Not chasing, just watching. I didn't stop driving for 3 more hours. Didn't care how tired I was. When I finally reached a town, I stopped at a real gas station with bright lights and people. I sat in the car for a long time before going in. Later, I tried to find that gas station again. I looked up the location, checked the maps. Nothing. No pit stop, no rest stop, no building. It was like it didn't exist. I even asked a local mechanic once when I described the spot. He said there used to be a gas station on that stretch of road, but it burned down 10 years ago. Some say it caught fire in the middle of the night, killing the owner who lived in the back room. People claimed they saw strange things in that area ever since. I don't know what I saw that night, but I know this: I've never used a random pit stop again. I make sure I fill up before sunset and stop only in places where there are people, light, and noise. Because silence on a dark road is the worst sound of all. And I'll never forget that smile. The way it stood there, watching, as if it knew something I didn't. So if you're ever driving alone late at night, and you see a lonely pit stop with a flickering light, keep driving. Trust me. This is the story of something truly terrifying that happened to my friend Alex. Something he still refuses to talk about unless you really press him. I'm going to tell you exactly what he told me. It all started with what seemed like a harmless, late-night pit stop on a lonely stretch of highway. But what happened next will stay with me and him forever. It was late October, around 2:00 in the morning. Alex had just finished a long day of driving. He was heading back from a business trip in the mountains, trying to get home before sunrise. The road was empty. Cold wind howled through the trees and a thick fog was rolling in. He said it felt like the road had gone silent. No cars, no animals, just the sound of tires on pavement and the occasional crackle of leaves. His fuel was low, phone battery almost dead, and he hadn't eaten anything since lunchtime. So when he saw a glowing red neon sign that read, "Gas and Food, open 24 hours, he felt relieved. He pulled into the lot slowly. The place looked strange. It was set far back from the road, almost hidden behind a group of dead trees. There was only one car parked outside, and the building itself looked like it hadn't been touched up in decades. Old brick walls, dusty windows, and a gas pump that looked like it belonged in the 70s. Still, the lights were on, and the pump worked. Alex filled up his car, locked it, and headed inside. The bell above the door gave a sharp ring as he entered. The inside was oddly quiet. Too quiet. There was music playing, some slow country tune, but it sounded like it was coming from a broken speaker. The shelves were mostly empty. Dusty snack bags, cans with no labels, a fridge humming in the back. But what got Alex's attention was the man behind the counter. He was tall, thin and pale as chalk, wore a cap too low to see his eyes. The man didn't say a word when Alex walked in, didn't even move, just stood there, staring at the cash register like he was frozen. Alex cleared his throat. Excuse me, do you have a restroom? The man slowly lifted a hand and pointed toward the back of the store, never looking at him directly. Alex nodded awkwardly. Thanks. He made his way to the back, where there was a narrow hallway. It smelled like mildew and smoke. The flickering light above buzzed loudly. There were two doors. One said restroom, the other said employees only. He opened the restroom door and went in. It was small, dirty, but usable. While he was washing his hands, the lights flickered again, and in the mirror, he thought he saw someone standing behind him. But when he turned around, no one was there. Just the stall door, slightly open. He didn't wait around to investigate. He dried his hands fast and headed out of the restroom. That's when things got weird. The hallway behind him was different. Longer, darker. He swore the hallway had only been a few feet when he came in, but now it stretched on much farther. And the employees only door? It was now wide open. Curiosity got the better of him, and he peeked inside. Looked like a break room at first. Tables, lockers, an old coffee machine. But there was something wrong with it. Everything looked too clean. Like it hadn't been used, but also hadn't gathered any dust. Like it was frozen in time. Then he heard it. A voice, whispering his name. Alex. He spun around. No one. He stepped back toward the main store, heart racing now. But when he turned the corner, everything had changed. The front of the store was empty. Abandoned. Dust everywhere. The ceiling lights were off. No music. And the man behind the counter? Gone. The only thing that remained was a faint echo of the bell that had rung when he first entered. But it didn't sound like a real bell anymore. It was slower, deeper, like it had been warped. He ran to the front door, pulled it, locked. He banged on it, shouting for help. That's when he saw the car outside, his own car. But now it was rusted, covered in leaves, like it had been sitting there for years. He turned to run back through the hallway, but now it was completely dark, like a tunnel. And from inside that tunnel, he heard footsteps. Slow. Wet. Like someone dragging their feet through water. And then, breathing. Something whispered again. Stay. He backed away, heart pounding, hands shaking. He looked around the store for anything, something to break the door, something to escape with. Then he saw it. A trap door, right behind the counter. It looked recently used, fresh dirt on the edges. Against all logic, he ran toward it and pulled. It opened. Inside was a ladder, leading down into total darkness. He heard the footsteps behind him getting closer. He didn't think. He just climbed down, shutting the trapdoor above him. The air below was cold and smelled like earth. He climbed down maybe 20 or 30 feet, then reached the bottom. It was a tunnel. Stone walls, wet ground, and torches lit along the sides. He followed the tunnel, unsure how long he walked, until he reached a door. Wooden, with metal bolts, and a handle shaped like a human hand. He opened it slowly. Inside was a small room, and sitting in the middle of that room was the man from the counter. But this time, he wasn't still. He was smiling, his mouth stretched too far, His eyes were too wide. And then Alex noticed the worst part. He wasn't alone. Behind him, lining the walls, were others. Motionless, people, pale, empty eyes, standing like dolls. One of them wore the same jacket Alex had, the same watch, the same face. Another Alex. He screamed. The man stood and whispered, "Welcome back." Alex ran. He ran harder than he ever had in his life. Through the tunnel, up the ladder, into the store, and suddenly, he was back. The lights were on again. Music, playing. The man was behind the counter, silent. The door unlocked. He didn't question it. He ran outside, jumped in his car. It was clean, full of gas like nothing had happened, and drove away without looking back. When he checked his phone, it was still 2:07 a.m. He had been inside for less than 10 minutes, or that's what it seemed like. He never found that gas station again. Every time he drove down that same highway, it wasn't there. Locals said there hadn't been a station out there in over 30 years. He doesn't talk about it much anymore, but every time he drives at night, he makes sure the tank is full. And if you ask him why, he'll just look at you with wide eyes and say, "Never stop at a place that looks too quiet. And if the man behind the counter never blinks, leave. Don't use the restroom, don't explore, just leave." I believe him. And now, maybe you will too. This is the story of a terrifying pit stop my cousin Sarah will never forget. She told me everything in detail after it happened, and even now her voice shakes when she talks about it. I remember every word because it chilled me to the bone. This isn't some made-up horror tale. This really happened to her, and the scariest part is, it could happen to anyone. Sarah was driving back home from visiting her college friend in another state. It was a long 8-hour drive, and by the time it was around midnight. She was exhausted. Her GPS had taken her off the main highway because of some traffic or construction. She ended up on a 2-lane country road that ran through forests and hills, completely empty. No streetlights, no cars, just her and the road. She hadn't planned to stop, but her gas tank was getting dangerously low, and she needed a restroom break. That's when she saw it, an old gas station with a flickering sign that said, "Miller's Fuel and Snacks." It was the only sign of life for miles. She pulled in slowly. The station was old and small, like something out of a forgotten time. One dusty gas pump stood outside, and a dim yellow light glowed above the store entrance. Sarah hesitated. Something about the place gave her a strange feeling, but she was tired, needed gas, and had no other choice. She parked her car, got out, and stretched. The night air was cold and the trees around the station were dead quiet. No insects, no wind, just stillness. Inside the store, a bell rang as she entered. The smell hit her first, musty, like damp wood and something rotten hidden in the walls. The place was old, with shelves that leaned to one side and snacks that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. Behind the counter sat a woman, maybe in her 50s, with stringy gray hair and a tired face. She didn't greet Sarah, just stared. "Hi," Sarah said, trying to be polite. "Is the restroom available?" The woman nodded slowly, still not speaking, and pointed toward the back of the store. Sarah walked past the shelves, heading to a wooden door that had a hand-painted sign, "Restroom." The door creaked when she opened it, and the light inside flickered. The bathroom was small and dirty. The mirror was cracked, and the floor tiles were broken. As she washed her hands, Sarah thought she heard something, like a faint whisper, but when she stopped and listened, it was gone. She looked at her reflection. Her face looked paler than usual. Maybe it was just the lighting. She opened the door and stepped back into the store. But something was wrong. The shelves were different. Some were missing. The lights were dimmer, and the woman behind the counter, she was gone. Sarah froze. Her heartbeat sped up. "Hello?" she called. No answer. She walked slowly toward the counter, trying to stay calm. Maybe the woman had gone to a back room. Then she noticed something on the floor behind the counter. A shoe, a woman's shoe, old, worn, and lying in a pool of dark red. That's when Sarah heard footsteps. Behind her, she spun around. No one. But then the bell above the door rang. She ran to the front, hoping someone had come in. The door was closed. She opened it and stepped outside. Her car was gone. She stared at the empty spot where it had been. It made no sense. She had locked it. The keys were in her pocket. She pulled out her phone. No signal. Suddenly, the lights inside the store shut off. Complete darkness. She turned around. The windows were now black, like the inside had been swallowed by shadow. And then, the door creaked open by itself. She knew she shouldn't go back in, but she also knew she couldn't just stand outside all night. There was nowhere else to go. She stepped inside slowly. It was pitch black and the air was freezing. She used her phone's flashlight to see, and that's when she noticed something horrifying. Handprints on the walls. Dozens of them, all child-sized. Pressed into the wood, some smeared with something that looked like blood. And then, she saw the stairs. There had been no stairs before. But now, right behind the counter, a stairway led down into the floor. Like a basement, she took one step forward, then heard whispering. Her name. Sarah. She turned and saw a small figure at the end of the aisle. A child? The flashlight shook in her hand. "Are you okay?" she asked. The figure didn't move. She took a step closer. That's when it moved. Not toward her, but upward. It floated, rising off the ground slowly. Sarah backed away, shaking. Her chest felt tight, her breath shallow. The figure opened its mouth and let out a screech. A sound so loud, so sharp, it felt like her eardrums would burst. She ran, out the door, into the cold night, heart pounding like a drum in her ears. She didn't know where to go. There was nothing around her but trees and road. Then, headlights. A pickup truck was driving toward the station. She ran into the road, waving her arms, crying for help. The truck stopped. An older man rolled down the window. "What the hell are you doing out here?" he asked. Sarah was crying too hard to answer. He got out, calmed her down, and helped her into the truck. "I was at the gas station," she said. "I went inside and something's wrong in there. My car, it's gone." The man looked at her confused. "Gas station?" he said. "There ain't been no station out here since Miller's burned down. That was, must have been 30 years ago." Sarah blinked. "What?" He pointed to the empty lot as they passed it. No building, just cracked concrete and a few charred wooden posts. But in that moment, she saw something. In the fog, standing on what was once the store's steps. The gray-haired woman, watching them, expressionless. The man didn't see her. Sarah never drove that road again, and to this day, she doesn't know how her car disappeared or what happened inside that building. The only thing she knows for sure is this: sometimes places hold on to things, memories, tragedies, people, and if you happen to stop in the wrong place at the wrong time, you might meet one of them. So if you're ever on a quiet country road, tired and looking for gas, and you see a small station glowing in the dark, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't even slow down. Because not every station that looks real is still part of this world. This is the story of what happened to my friend Mark. It's the kind of story you don't want to believe, but once you hear it, it sticks with you forever. It happened a few years ago when he was driving through the middle of nowhere. Just a simple pit stop that turned into something he'll never forget. Mark had been on a road trip across the country, and after hours of driving, he found himself on a stretch of highway so quiet, it felt like the world had forgotten it existed. It was late, almost 2 a.m., and the road was empty. The kind of empty that made you feel small, like you were the only one left in the world. His gas light came on, and after scanning the horizon for any sign of life, he saw it. A lonely gas station up ahead, flickering neon sign barely visible through the dark. It wasn't much, just a small rundown place. The sign read Crossroad Station, and the lights above the pumps hummed in a way that sounded like they were barely hanging on. Mark pulled in, relieved that he wasn't going to be stranded in the middle of nowhere. As soon as he stepped out of the car, the chill in the air hit him. It wasn't cold enough to freeze, but it was enough to make him shiver. The station looked even older up close. The windows were grimy, and the concrete around the pumps was cracked. The gas station had clearly seen better days, but it was open, and that's all that mattered to Mark right now. The inside of the store smelled stale, like a mixture of old coffee and musty books. The lights were dim, casting long shadows across the shelves of outdated snacks and cleaning products. There wasn't a soul in sight, which seemed odd for a place that was technically open, but Mark shrugged it off. He walked to the counter to pay for the gas. The man behind the counter looked like he hadn't slept in days. He was thin, with hollow eyes and messy hair that hadn't seen a brush in ages. He didn't say anything as Mark approached, just nodded. When Mark handed him his credit card, Mark could tell something was off. The guy's eyes never left him, as though he was studying him. "You sure you want to stop here?" the man asked in a hoarse voice, his eyes narrowing slightly. Mark didn't know what to say. He shrugged. "I'm low on gas. Couldn't pass. Up the only place for miles." The man's lips twisted into a strange smile. "I'd think twice about it, if I were you," he said softly, almost like a warning. Mark chuckled, trying to shake off the strange vibe. "I'll be fine." With a final glance from the man, Mark turned and walked back to his car. The headlights flickered when he got in, but he didn't think much of it. He was tired and ready to get back on the road. But just as he was about to start the engine, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. A shadow. It moved quickly behind the station, too fast for a person. Mark froze, watching as the figure darted around the corner of the building. His heart rate spiked. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. His first instinct was to ignore it and drive away. But curiosity got the better of him. He grabbed his keys and stepped out of the car again, walking cautiously toward the corner of the building. There was nothing, no sign of anyone or anything. The place was silent again, just like before. He turned back to his car, shaking his head. Maybe He was just imagining things, or maybe the fatigue was starting to mess with his mind. He was about to get back in when he heard it, a faint scratching sound. It came from behind him, from the shadows. He spun around, but again, there was nothing. Nothing except the darkness swallowing everything in sight. He shook his head again, telling himself to stop being paranoid. Mark got back into his car and started the engine. The station was starting to feel off, like something wasn't quite right. He quickly pulled out onto the highway, hoping to forget the strange feelings creeping up on him. As he drove away, he saw something in the rearview mirror. It was the man from the station. He was standing in the parking lot watching him, his figure framed by the dim lights of the station. Mark's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't be sure, but it almost looked like the man was waving at him, his arms stretched out in an unnatural, stiff motion. Mark's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he sped up, desperate to get as far away from that place as possible. For a few miles, everything seemed normal. The road was empty, the sound of his tires on the pavement the only thing filling the silence. But then, the gas light came on again. Panic surged through him. He had just filled up, and yet, the light was on again. He knew he'd seen the gas gauge reading full when he left the station. There was no way the tank was empty already. He pulled over to the side of the road, his heart racing. The moonlight illuminated the empty highway, but there was nothing in sight. No other cars, no lights, just endless dark. He checked the gas gauge. The needle was on empty. Something was wrong. He knew it. He sat there for a moment, staring at the gas gauge, trying to make sense of it. Maybe there had been some kind of malfunction with the pump, but it didn't explain how quickly the gas had run out. His mind raced with possibilities, but none of them seemed to make sense. Just then, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out of his pocket, expecting a text from a friend or a call, but there was nothing there. Just a strange notification. A map. A route. The route led him back to the gas station. He felt his stomach drop. There was no way. He couldn't go back there. But the route kept flashing on his screen. He couldn't ignore it. Something was pulling him back. Against his better judgment, Mark turned around and headed back toward the station. Every instinct screamed at him to turn around, but he couldn't stop himself. As he approached the station, he noticed something strange. The lights were out. The station was completely dark, like it had never been open. He parked in front of the station, staring at it, unsure of what to do. But then, he saw it. A figure, standing in the same spot as before. It was the man. His figure was now closer, standing in the dim light of the old neon sign. But there was something off about him. His body was too still, almost like he was frozen in place. His arms were stretched out in front of him, but now Mark could see his hands were twisted at unnatural angles. The man wasn't waving, he was reaching. Mark's body went cold. He slammed the car into reverse, his heart hammering in his chest. He didn't stop until the station was out of sight, and even then, he didn't feel safe. Something was wrong with that place, something he couldn't explain. Mark still doesn't know what happened that night. All he knows is he never went back. He never stopped at a pit stop again without thinking twice. And sometimes, when he's driving through the night, he swears he can still see that same station in the distance. Just for a moment, just enough to make him question if he's truly alone on the road.